Apple is about to make the most polarizing design pivot in the history of the company, and it is going to cost you over $2,000. For years, Cupertino has watched from the sidelines as Samsung, Google, and OnePlus turned foldable phones into mainstream daily drivers. But according to new supply chain leaks hitting the web, Apple's first foldable isn't a Galaxy Fold clone, and it definitely isn't an iPhone Flip. They are calling it the iPhone Ultra, or simply the iPhone Fold, and the CAD renders floating around Asian supply chains show something closer to a premium, ultra-flat digital wallet than a traditional book-style device. If you look closely at what the analysts are saying, this completely flips the script on what we expected. Ross Young from Display Supply Chain Consultants just dropped a massive bomb regarding the display layout. Most foldables give you a massive, usable outer screen and an even bigger canvas inside. Apple is going a completely different route. The outer display on this iPhone Ultra is rumored to be a tiny 5.3 inches. That is practically iPhone mini territory, just slightly wider. Think about that for a second. In a world where every phone is pushing 6.5 inches, Apple wants your primary, closed experience to be incredibly compact. Honestly, I will believe it when I see it, because typing on a 5.3-inch screen in 2026 sounds like a nightmare. But once you unfold the device, DigiTimes reports that a massive 7.8-inch canvas takes over. We are creeping directly into iPad mini territory here, creating a bizarre contrast between a tiny outer footprint and a massive internal workspace. But the real reason Apple has been so incredibly late to the foldable party comes down to one specific detail, the crease. Mark Gurman has noted multiple times that Tim Cook flat out refused to approve a folding display that showed a visible wrinkle down the middle. To fix this, Apple has spent years engineering a proprietary liquid hinge mechanism. The Elic out of South Korea reports that Apple recently locked in patents for this dynamic fluid structure. We do not know the exact physics behind how a liquid-assisted hinge functions in daily use, but the goal is simple: a completely flat, crease-free visual plane when unfolded. When you catch the light on the screen, you will not see a dip, and when you swipe your thumb across the panel, you will not feel a speed bump. This is the premium refinement people expect when they pay the Apple tax, but it also means the internal engineering is ridiculously complex. Do not expect a flashy rainbow of color options for this first-generation rollout either. Mako Takara claims Apple is treating the iPhone Ultra like an ultra-premium piece of studio gear, mirroring the current MacBook Pro lineup. You will get two choices: a classic, understated space gray or silver, and a deeply dark space black. It is clean, industrial, and completely safe. Under the hood, things get even wilder. TSMC is reportedly hit with massive pressure because Apple wants this folding flagship powered by the unannounced A20 Pro silicon. This is not just another minor speed bump, we are talking about a historic move to a 2-nanometer manufacturing process. Compressing billions of transistors even closer together means massive jumps in thermal efficiency and raw computing power. Folding phones are notorious for thermal throttling because you have two separate chassis halves fighting to dissipate heat. Shifting to a 2-nanometer architecture might be the only way Apple can keep this thin chassis cool without sacrificing pro-level performance. Let me know down in the comments right now, would you actually spend $2,000 on a folding iPhone if it meant giving up Face ID? Because that is the exact compromise the supply chain is hinting at. To keep the display borders completely seamless and avoid massive cutouts on the internal glass, Apple is rumored to be completely ditching Face ID on the Ultra. Instead, they are bringing back Touch ID, embedding a capacitive sensor directly into the power button along the side frame. It is the exact same biometric setup we have seen on the iPad Air and iPad mini for years. For a premium device with an Ultra badge, losing facial recognition feels like a massive step backward, even if it keeps the screen looking pristine. Network connectivity is also getting a custom silicon overhaul. Shrimp Apple Pro has point. due to an internal Apple-designed communication array featuring the N1 or N2 Wi-Fi chip alongside a proprietary C2 modem. The big talking point here is advanced satellite internet routing. We are not talking about just sending an emergency text message when you are stuck in the mountains. The rumors suggest this hardware could allow low-bandwidth web browsing, audio streaming, and basic image transmission completely off the grid. If you are in the middle of a desert, you won't be streaming 4K video, but staying connected to core internet services without a cell tower changes the game for remote travel. Because of this heavy custom silicon, the battery configuration has to be massive. Ming-Chi states that Apple is targeting a split-cell battery design pushing anywhere between 5,300 and 5,500 mAh. When you combine that physical capacity with the efficiency of a 2nm A20 Pro chip, the battery life should easily bridge the gap between the standard Pro models and the massive Pro Max variants, even while driving two independent displays. On the back of the device, Apple is making another unexpected sacrifice by completely dropping the dedicated telephoto zoom lens. To keep the folded chassis as thin as humanly possible, the rear camera module will mirror the standard dual-lens layout found on the rumored iPhone Air line. You get a 48-megapixel main sensor and a 48-megapixel ultra-wide. To make up for the lack of optical zoom hardware, Apple is relying heavily on sensor cropping computational photography, aiming for a lossless 3x digital crop. All of this brings us to the inevitable pricing conversation, and it is going to sting. Base configurations starting at 256 GB of storage are rumored to land between $1,900 and $2,300. You are paying a massive premium for the engineering involved in that liquid hinge and the 2nm silicon. Higher tiers will scale up to 1 TB, but don't expect a 2 TB option since Apple isn't positioning this as a heavy ProRes video capture rig. As for the release timeline, expect Tim Cook to reveal the device on stage at Apple Park this coming September. However, don't expect to hold it right away. Multiple supply chain leaks suggest a fractured launch window similar to the iPhone X rollout. The standard iPhone 18 lineup will ship immediately, while the ultra-premium folding flagship will likely face production bottlenecks, pushing actual retail availability out into late October or November. It is an incredibly risky, highly expensive gamble, but Apple is finally getting ready to fold.